Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm Corey Kiesewetter, Senior Product Marketing Manager with Forcepoint, and today I'm joined by my colleague, Aditya Sahu, Technical Marketing Engineer. We're going to provide a brief overview of a couple of products that are revolutionizing data security: Forcepoint Data Security Posture Management, or DSPM, and Forcepoint Data Detection and Response, or DDR. Now, one big reason these tools are a game changer for data security is because the traditional approaches to data security and data loss prevention required organizations to define detailed matching criteria as a starting point, whether that's using regex or dictionaries or file fingerprinting. But that kind of policy definition and fine tuning can take a lot of time and effort, especially as you try to scale that out across a large organization with complex workflows and various types of sensitive data. However, with DSPM, we can use AI to make this process a lot easier by automatically discovering and classifying sensitive data at scale. And it's not just AI-powered data classification that makes this approach revolutionary. It's a confluence of factors that make it much easier for organizations to answer these questions that you see on the screen, and do so in a consistent way for data stored across on-prem and cloud locations, giving you more comprehensive visibility of what sensitive data is residing where, who has access to it, how it's moving across the organization, the nature of different risks to the data, and the nature of different risks for compliance or non-compliance, as well as the ability to remediate those risks. It makes sense to break things down into the three states of data, looking at data at rest, data in use, and data in motion. By focusing on data at rest first, you can move quickly while minimizing any interruptions to business processes. You simply set up the connector with DSPM and let the tool start scanning. It will discover and classify data across repositories, show access permissions and risks to data, identify redundant, outdated, and trivial data, or as we call it, rot data, and provide a means for remediating these risks. However, CISOs and others that are highly focused on risk mitigation will recognize that risks can crop up in between scans, and waiting for the next scan might mean waiting too long. This is where DDR comes in. By enabling DDR, you can continuously monitor all activity with data in that repository. This means you can be alerted to risks as soon as they occur and take steps to mitigate that risk immediately. This also opens up additional visibility, such as data lineage, showing who all has touched or changed a file since it was discovered, greatly aiding in incident response efforts. And when you run DSPM and DDR, they give you the building blocks that you need to more easily set up DLP policies that are effective from the start, reducing the overhead associated with the traditional approaches to data security. DSPM and DDR give you the classifications for sensitive data across the business and can automatically tag sensitive data according to policies that you set up in the tool. These data tags can then be used in control policies, including DLP rules for data in motion, to more tightly control the movement of sensitive data that violates company policy. But seeing is believing. So let's hand it over to Aditya to show us some of the value that customers are seeing from these tools on a regular basis. Aditya?
Hi everyone. Thanks, Corey. Over the next few minutes, we'll try and explore Forcepoint DSPM and cover the holistic dashboard, analytics view, and remediation steps, which our practitioners really appreciate. And we'll also cover DDR, as my colleague Corey mentioned. Over here, I'm logged into the DSPM portal, and once you're logged in, the user is taken directly to an intuitive, unified dashboard. Now, DSPM dashboard provides an immediate summary of entire data landscape, including the total files discovered, sensitive files, overshared files, and high-risk files that are potentially exposed across all data sources. Now, this consolidated view delivers holistic understanding of the organization's data security, posture, and overall risk status.
And this isn't just unstructured data, right? This covers a broader perspective, right?
Right, that's correct, right? Yeah, yeah. So you get pretty much the entire spectrum of all the files, all the data which are present across all your data sources. Yeah,
Including enterprise databases like Oracle and SQL as well.
that's correct. So yeah, we'll be covering that in a few moments. So, all right. So let's just quickly cover the structured data discovery as well. So by navigating to the structured data tab, we can obtain centralized visibility across all connected structured data sources. This view clearly categorizes data based on sensitivity, including public data, highly confidential data, and records containing regulated data types such as PHI and PCI, enabling accurate risk assessment and policy-driven governance, right?
Yeah, we've actually been seeing a lot of value and interest in this specific capability to cover structured data as organizations are looking to get a more comprehensive or consistent way of operationalizing different business data for AI usage. So maybe they'll have, say, Postgres or Oracle that they're using to feed into an AI pipeline, and being able to take this kind of DSPM view across their whole estate, including those used for AI initiatives, is really giving them um, the assurance that they need as they look to expand use of AI without opening up the organization to sensitive data risks or accidental data exposure.
Awesome. Yeah, that pretty much summarizes the database discovery option here. Now let's quickly look at enterprise search option over here. So over here, we can leverage intuitive graphical query language, which is basically to fine tune your data discovery and classification. Now this allows us to build targeted queries that narrow down results based on specific attributes and sensitivity levels. All right, so I'm gonna quickly copy GQL. Over here, I'm trying to search all the documents with IT documents tag type within my OneDrive. Now let's see what we get. So over here, Forcepoint DSPM ran that query and gave me all the documents with that particular tag present under a OneDrive. And then further, you can sort of sort those documents based on the risk type. You can see that these are the two documents which are at a high risk of being exposed.
And this is one of the areas that a lot of customers ask about, right, is visibility into OneDrive.
That is correct, right? Like if you have got a corner use case and you want to find out document with a specific tag type, you can use our GQL, and it's very intuitive. You can run your GQL and you can add your attributes on the fly just by clicking on add filter, and then you've got all these options to sort of sort your data type. Yeah.
It makes it really easy to go into those. Like you mentioned, some organizations might have specific types of, say, intellectual property and an internal policy that says, hey, this should only be stored in certain, really safe locations. Maybe we don't want it to go to OneDrive. Well, this is a way that you can spot check that and find, hey, are there any data tagged as maybe CUI data that are stored in, say, OneDrive? And then if so, they can find it and take some actions against it.
That's correct. You got it right. Exactly. All right. Moving further, let's dive into the analytics view. Now, analytics view is where things get tricky, and it's extremely powerful. It delivers deep visibility into critical data attributes, including exactly where the sensitive data resides, its geographic location, and how it's distributed across on-prem and SaaS environments. Right now, this allows security and compliance team to understand the data exposure in context and make informed risk-based decisions with confidence.
So it seems like this would be a big help with data residency kinds of concerns as well.
That's correct. You could easily find out where your sensitive data is stored and then take necessary precautionary actions as well. Yeah. I mean, seeing is believing, right? Like when you can find out where your data is stored, you can take necessary actions. All right. And then you also have something called ransomware exposure analytics view. So over here, you can understand your potential data risks, including ransomware impact, sensitive data distribution, and high-risk data locations across assets and attributes. So potentially, these are the files which are shared. These are the sensitive files which are shared across multiple users, potential reach, a potential recipe of ransomware exposure and data breach. And using this view, you can find out which all files are being exposed and where those files are located. Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, customers typically look at this one as well as I think the view that we're about to show in order to focus on what we talk about as minimizing the blast radius. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about that and the value of that for an organization?
Absolutely. So Forcepoint DSPM further differentiates itself by providing detailed insights into redundant, obsolete, and trivial data, aka rot data. Now, rot data significantly increases organization risk by expanding the attack surface for breaches, as you rightly mentioned. So Forcepoint DSPM directly addresses these challenges by enabling organizations to reduce risk through identification and removal or archival of unnecessary data, improving overall data hygiene. It helps security teams focus protection efforts on high value business critical information while simultaneously strengthening regulatory and compliance posture across the enterprise. So you could see that you've got so many files which are untouched for over 5 years, for 3 years, for 12 months, for 6 months. And these are sensitive files. So yeah, I mean, they are definitely a potential recipe for data breach. Yeah.
So to summarize quickly, some of these types of data, especially if they're redundant copies of things that might have, I don't know, PII information, that could be a prime target for ransomware attackers, basically low-hanging fruit. And by having visibility like this, it'll allow organizations to clean up the unnecessary copies or mitigate any public exposure or overexposure so that we can, like I said, minimize that blast radius and ensure that there is no low-hanging fruit for hackers regarding your organization's sensitive data, as well as in terms of the rot and clearing out files that haven't been modified or touched in over 5 years. They're just taking up space. Let's get them out of there, free up the space, and reduce that blast radius so the
And save some
organization.
cost as well, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Right. All right. So far we have covered classification. We also looked at analytics view. Now let's also quickly look at the remediation capabilities of Forcepoint, an area that our practitioners truly appreciate. Now, there's a saying, right? Like in cybersecurity, the speed of response defines the scale of impact. And with our remediation capabilities, you could actually do that. So I'm going to quickly go back to the same enterprise search, and I'm going to quickly run the same query again. And yeah, so we see a file which is at a high risk. This file could get exposed, and let's see how we could remediate and make this file more safer. So I can quickly click on revoke permissions and click on apply. And with one click, I can remove the list of users who could access this file. So at the moment, the file is shared with all these users, and that's why the file is marked up as highly risky. I could just click on X, and remove all these users and essentially make this file more safe.
So it sounds like this is a great, quick and easy way to not only prioritize risk, but actually deliver the remediations directly through there and enforce the principle of least privilege, do access
Absolutely.
governance.
Absolutely, you're spot on, right? And then we also have a move option. Now, this is really interesting option, really helpful. So you could basically move this file from one data source to other data source. So let's say you're not happy with your existing data source. I mean, for some reasons you feel it's not safe. You could select your destination data source and just click on the credentials and then enable stub file. Now, stub file basically lets your user know that the file has been moved. So it basically gives you an option, like in the sense like it would create a dummy file over there. When a user clicks on it, a user would get a file moved notification stating that the file has been moved from this location to the destination location. And then if the user wants to access that file, they can reach out to the system admin. So that's what
Now,
file stub does. Yeah.
I love this feature. It is, there's always within security that kind of concern of, well, we need to do the right thing and mitigate risk, but we don't want to add friction to the business. We don't want to slow down business processes. And if, let's say, a file containing sensitive information is put in a location that it shouldn't be in order to more easily facilitate certain workflows, you're kind of faced with a difficult choice. Do we keep the organization safe and potentially break a workflow? Well, this file stubbing feature allows you to basically have your cake and eat it too. You can mitigate the risk while still leaving kind of a breadcrumb trail. So whenever that user, if there was a legitimate business process that needed that data, well, now they can be informed, oh, this shouldn't have been shared in, say, Google Drive, only in SharePoint. Well, now I know where to go to get it because of the file stub. So we've mitigated
Exactly.
risk and maintained the business processes with no friction.
Absolutely. And our users really, really like the stub option because then they're not paranoid. Oh, where did my file go? They have the link where the file has gone, and then they can reach out to their system admins to get access to the new location. Yeah. All right. Let's also cover DDR. So DDR, Forcepoint Data Detection and Response, aka DDR, continuously monitors how sensitive data is accessed, used, and moved across users, applications, and systems. So essentially, it gives you near real-time visibility into what's happening into your data, right? So let's say if I click on Google Drive, I mean, you could see the list of all the files which are, as we say, being touched by the users. What actions are being performed on that file? Is it being downloaded? Uh, what's the path of the file? What sort of action is that? And who's the user who's making those changes? All those options could be very well accessed. Now, we also have a very, very interesting option, which my colleague Corey discussed at the beginning of this call. It's called file lineage, right? Now, file lineage in Forcepoint DDR gives you complete end-to-end view of how file moves across your organization. From creation to access, sharing, modification, and download, every action is captured in a single chronological timeline. So I'm going to quickly select Google Drive as my data source, and I'm going to quickly look at this file, and let's click on file lineage. And here we can see the entire life cycle of the file, how many unique users this file has got, and how many times this file has been downloaded. Now, this is a highly confidential file containing PII and PCI data, and it has been downloaded 21 times. So that definitely raises an alarm, right? So yeah, the file lineage is extremely powerful. As I said, it gives you the entire life cycle of the file, when it is touched, when it is downloaded, when it is moved, when it is shared, and when it is copied. All those events could be obtained on one single page.
And I feel like one of the comments you made earlier beautifully explains the value of this. Incident response, trying to resolve a risk is greatly impacted by how long it takes you to, first of all, identify that there was risk
Exactly.
there. Having DDR gives you that near real-time visibility. It's continuously monitoring that. So as soon as an issue starts to arise, you can be alerted and able to take action to mitigate that risk directly through the platform.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. You pretty much summarized it, Corey. Well, that's pretty much from my side from the DSPM and DDR demo. Yeah, over to you, Corey.
Thanks, Aditya. So as we saw in this demonstration, there's a lot of value from DSPM and DDR to basically revolutionize how organizations approach data security and data governance, give organizations actually a meaningful way to do this at scale across all the different types of sensitive data that they're responsible for, and indeed keep a real-time continuous running inventory and monitoring of sensitive data and the risks to that sensitive data across the entire environment. And these capabilities are critical parts of Forcepoint's data security cloud platform that brings together a wealth of security technologies. So you can go beyond DSPM and DDR. We often advise starting there so you can kind of make the future actions with, say, DLP even easier when you get to there. So oftentimes customers will start with DSPM, DDR, use the information, the telemetry from that as building blocks for DLP used on the same platform, and then extend those controls out to additional channels using, say, web security and RBI, or using email security and our cloud access security broker. So you can have one set of data security policies across your entire estate, protecting data at rest, in use, and in motion. So thanks for joining us on this one. Aditya, I really appreciate your help. And if you want to see a similar sort of demo tailored to your specific environment and your primary concerns, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to set up a tailored consultative call and show you what our solutions can do to help you solve your problems.
Thanks a lot.